just drive me crazy. It's like, what are you morons doing, and how can the league allow this crap to continue? And are you blind? These are all valid questions that you would ask throughout the course of a game, and now I'm just like, you know what? They don't care, and I ain't going to let it bother me anymore. It's not going to happen. But this song, You're a Friend of Mine, I've been discovering different songs that I used to like, and, sometimes you're rolling through some of your set lists, and you're like, oh, I forgot about this one. But you should check out the video. It's a great video for 80s videos, but it was done back in 1985. You're a Friend of Mine, written by Narada Michael Walden and Jeffrey Cohen, with lead vocals by Clarence Clemons and Jackson Browne in a duet. Now, remember, Clarence Clemons was a part of the E Street Band with Bruce Springsteen. At the time of the song's release, Clemons was already well known nationally as a saxophonist in Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. The song was released on Clemons' solo album Hero in '85. Jackson Browne's then-girlfriend Daryl Hannah provides background vocals and appears in the song's music video. And she's painting and later filming the duo with like a camcorder. Also appearing in the video is a backing band, including songwriter Walden on drums. The B-side was Let the Music Say It, a non-album track written by Clemons and Michael Johnson. Originally, Clemons was going to sing with Bruce Springsteen, but Springsteen was on his honeymoon with his first wife, Julianne Phillips, and instead Springsteen suggested that his longtime friend Jackson Browne sing it with Clemons. And the song, of course, was a commercial success. I love stories about songs. I love stories about how certain guys get together to write songs. I like the story about how some of the songwriters come up with the words. Sometimes it's based on syllables and what sounds nice. I mean, it's awesome. All right, so very happy to be with you on this wonderful day. Hope you're enjoying the Thursday. The weather not quite as good today as it was maybe the day before yesterday, but don't forget, coming up this weekend, our life's about to get better because we're going to set the clocks forward on Sunday. I know it sucks because we're going to lose sleep, and it's going to throw our body clocks into a bit of a chaotic scenario, but the benefit is we get longer days. There is nothing worse on my soul than when we set the clocks back, and that means when you wake up it's dark, and then when you get off work it's dark, and you feel like you're living in darkness, and you don't get to spend time outside, and you don't see as much sunshine, and we get a lot of clouds and rain here in the Northwest, and at some point it's like, I've had enough! And right now would be that time. So I'm looking forward to the longer days because that means summertime is right around the corner, and we get a chance to enjoy more daylight, which is always a good thing. So that's coming up on Sunday. And then Saturday, it's one of those rare days right now where I have actually a day off. Yeah, I've been working pretty much 7 days a week now for quite some time between, Monday through Friday at the radio station. The weekends get eaten up by Blazer games on a regular basis. And then I'm at Spirit Mountain Casino all the time hosting events and drawings. And that's where I'm at right now. I am seated right in the middle of the BetMGM Sportsbook here at Spirit Mountain Casino. And coming up tonight, we kick off the March drawings, which are to the hoop. It's March Madness themed, and they've got a big Plinko board. And I would say of all the pricing games on Price is Right, and oh, by the way, I did go back and watch some old Price is Right episodes the other night from like the late 70s into the early 80s. They're available on Amazon Prime right now. They're freaking awesome. Bob Barker was a pimp. Bob Barker had the sweetest skinny mic in the history of television, and the colorful outfits from the late 70s and early 80s on that show was amazing. But the pricing games are great, and who didn't love Plinko when it was up and one of the games that was being played on Price is Right? Love it. So we got a big Plinko board, and people are going to drop their chips down and have a chance to win some great cash and prizes. That's coming up tonight. But on Saturday, I was invited up to Tacoma to check out some of the high school basketball tournament in the state of Washington. And the gentleman that invited me up, and I love these type of stories in life, how it's kind of a small world. And you ever look back at how you meet people or become really good friends with people in these interesting encounters? So Alex and his lady Cotton invited me up. Alex is, I guess he's hosting like the hospitality tent. I don't know exactly what he's doing. I just know that he's taking care of people up there at Tacoma Dome. So he invited me up, and I can go up and watch some of the high school hoops. And if you've ever been to like the Tacoma Dome for the Washington State tournament, and I've called a few games up there when I was working for John Phillips at KVAN, they drop this big curtain right down the middle, and they have games on both sides. So it's really a good setup for basketball viewing. So Alex invited me up, and I thought, you know what, it's an off day. I'd like to go up and check out some high school hoops. It's, high school sports, there's still a feeling or a sensation of purity to a degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, not completely influenced by money. So it's kind of nice to just go up and watch it, for the love of the game. But Alex is a guy, I can't remember the year. I think it was 2012, and I could be wrong on that, but I think it was 2012. I had gone up to Seattle with Kaylee's mom, and we were going to watch like some Seattle Mariner baseball games. And one of the games, it was during the weekend, like a Saturday or Sunday game. I'm sitting there, and right behind me is this dude, and we start talking. His name's Alex. Nice guy, really nice guy. And we start talking, and, he loves the Dodgers, and we're talking about baseball. And by about midway through the game, he and I were having great conversation. And he's like, hey, I don't know what you're doing after the game, but I called ahead, and I've got you set up for a table at El Gaucho, somewhere in the Seattle area. I can't remember which town it was in. And I was like, what? You set me up at El Gaucho? He goes, yeah, it's on me. I just want to take care of you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful night. So I went up and ate at El Gaucho. And from that point forward, he and I have become good friends. And we've maintained contact after all of these years, even when I was down in the Bay Area and then came back. We have gone down to the Palm Desert together to play golf. He had a condo down there. I don't know exactly what he does. I have a lot of people or friends or people I know that do things that, let's just say that they're on a different level than I am. And most people are, because my mind doesn't function like a lot of smart people do. But he was into aerospace design and had some companies. He was doing stuff for Boeing and just a lot of stuff that sounded really cool but was well over my head. And he's got a couple of other businesses. I think he's got some stake in the El Gaucho in Tacoma. He's got a dealership there in Fife. So he's got interest in a lot of different things. Anyways, we became friends. And then he invited me up in 2016 for his 50th birthday, and he held it in some old school theater in downtown Tacoma. And it was great because it was 80s themed. When you walked in, you had to wear an 80s costume. So I went dressed as Maverick with the Go to Hell sunglasses on, and I actually got a Top Gun jumpsuit. So, I mean, not that I'm cool, but that night I looked actually pretty cool. But what was really cool about the birthday party for his 50th, there were two, what are those bands called? They play the songs of the bands that we know, but they're not the actual band. Oh, cover bands. So there were two cover bands there. One was a cover band for Journey, and then to close out the evening, it was a cover band for Queen, which is pretty awesome. And so there were two concerts. We got to sit back and enjoy it, and he invited a bunch of his friends and family and people to come and celebrate with him. But what I loved most about the party was it was all 80s themed. So not only were we rolling around in 80s costumes, but all of the food would have been food that you would have had like in 1983, 1984. So for the main courses, there were different types of hamburger helper and tuna helper, which I thought was hilarious. And then all of the snacks were like 80s themed snacks and so forth. And there were Rubik's Cubes that you could play with, just different things that were all from the 80s. It was a great setup. But anyways, I just think it's neat how I had a random encounter. I'm not sure if I believe in random encounters, but I ran into a guy I'd never met before at a baseball game. We become friends, and so that's how that contact happened. And so he and I talk all the time. And now he's kind of transitioning out. He's older than I am, but now he's become a golf coach. And I forgot, he just got a new job at a school up there in the, I don't know, Seattle or Tacoma area. I can't remember which school it is, but he's a golf coach now. And so it's just great. I love, hearing from him and seeing how things go. But I'm going to go up and check out some high school basketball this weekend. Now, coming up on the show today, and this is going to be pretty sweet, Sean Hyken's going to join us here in about 10 minutes, a little less than that, for the latest on the Arena Project. And then we'll get his take on the team. But also at 5:20 today, we're going to pay tribute to the great Lou Holtz, who has passed away at the age of 89. And the good news is he was around family and friends, the ones who he loved the most when he passed away. I think it was down in Orlando. But Lou Holtz is one of the all-time great coaches in college football. He was a terrific analyst on ESPN, a great leader, a great man, a great husband, a great father, just an all-time success story. And he's also the author of one of the greatest college football seasons and teams I've ever seen. I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but I'm a fan of Lou Holtz, and that 1988 team captured my imagination. They beat Miami, who was ranked number 1, ending their 36-game winning streak, and from that point forward, they won out, and they beat West Virginia in the Fiesta Bowl at Sun Devil Stadium for their championship, which, by the way, is the last national title, as hard as that is to believe, for Notre Dame. I had an opportunity to catch up with Lou Holtz back in 2012 at the Hilton in downtown Portland, thanks to Peter Sokach. He was in town for the commencement speech at the University of Portland, which is sister universities with Notre Dame. And I was able to go and speak with him. And we talked football. We talked about the 88 team. We talked about leaders. And he was an intimidating presence, even though he was seated. And he's not a man of great stature, but he commands respect. So I'm going to share that conversation with Coach Holtz that I had at 5:20 today, just to pay tribute to one of the all-time greats. And that 88 team, that still goes down in history as my favorite college football game of all time. 1988, October 15th, South Bend, Indiana. Number 1 Miami at number 4 Notre Dame. And the Irish get it done. Jimmy Johnson against Lou Holtz, Catholics versus convicts. The 30 for 30 on that, by the way, is unreal. So that's what's coming up at 5:20. You can reach out to me on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528. You can also call me on the telephone if you'd like. 503-248-0620. Sean Highkin is up next, talking some Blazers from Rose Garden Report. He's our Trailblazer insider. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. I love this report. Aaron Rodgers says he won't do TV after his NFL career is over. In fact, he plans to disappear entirely. Well, that's a lie. Now, I'm not a guy that hates on Aaron Rodgers. He's one of the best quarterbacks of my lifetime, and I actually enjoy him, and I love watching him play, but that's absolute nonsense. Not only is he not going to disappear, he's one of those guys that enjoys hearing himself talk and sharing his thoughts. I just don't believe that he's going to go into a darkness retreat and never come out. I don't believe that at all. It's like these people that suggest, like, oh, is LeBron going to shut it down at the end of the year? No, he's not. And the reason why is because I will bet my bottom dollar that there's no way in HE-double hockey sticks that LeBron will retire until he announces before the season when he's going to shut it down so everybody knows, and then he gets the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, retirement tour treatment. That's the way he is. Whether you love him or hate him, that's just who he is. He likes the attention. He likes people fawning all over him, and he wants to get a backgammon set from the Portland Trail Blazers like the one they gave Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on his retirement tour. There's no way ever that LeBron would shut it down before he gets his retirement tour. It's just not his character. And just like Aaron Rodgers, I got no problem with the guy. But there's no way he's going to disappear. Not as much as he likes to yap. I mean, let's just be real. Can't people just be honest? Why do people have to pretend to be something they're not? Like Aaron Rodgers acting like he's just going to disappear is nonsense. It's rubbish is what it is. All right? Come on now, Aaron. Be better. 503-248-0620. But I do believe he's going to come back and play another year for the Steelers. And I think with time, he's really learned to appreciate his former coach in Green Bay. 503-248-0620. Let's go out to the phones. He is our Trailblazer insider. He's a distinguished gentleman, and he provides the best local coverage of your Portland Trailblazers from RoseGardenReport.com. Mr. Sean Highkin is back on the Rip City Drive. Sean, I appreciate you, and thank you for coming on the show. So why don't we update everyone? And the reason why I think it's important to do this, Sean, is because a lot of people may not understand some of the details. But what is the latest with the arena project with New Moda Center for the Trailblazers and the Oregon Senate?
Well, it passed the vote yesterday. It passed pretty easily, 24-6, from the Senate. And then, as far as I know, the next step is that it needs to be approved by the House of Representatives. They had their first and second readings over the last day. I believe the final vote is scheduled for tomorrow, and my expectation and expectation of people that I've talked to with the team is that it's also going to pass the House pretty easily, and then it has to go to Governor Kotek's office, and she's already said that she's going to sign it when it gets to her desk. So unless something very unexpected happens tomorrow at the final vote at the House of Representatives, it should be on course to pass, and then it's just going to be a matter of getting the funding locked in at the county level and at the city level, and also negotiating a lease, the 20-year lease that the team has already committed to agreeing to with the city for Moda Center. And I think the idea is that they hope to have all of that done by the end of this month when the sale of the team to Tom Dundon is officially approved. But I mean, we obviously, until everything is done, we can't count on everything being done. But so far, it sure seems like everything is happening on schedule and on track to be buttoned up by the time that it gets to that point.
All right, so help me with my simple mind. This sounds like great news if you're a Trailblazer fan. Is that correct?
It's certainly not bad. If you're someone that's hoping that the team is going to be long-term committed to Portland and that this is all going to be buttoned up, it seems like everything is trending in that direction. I mean, obviously, again, you can't call anything done until it's officially done, but so far nothing that's happened is making me think that that's in real, danger of not happening.
Okay. Any issues that you foresee on the county level?
As far as I think the county level, that seems like that's pretty straightforward. The city council is going to be a little bit interesting. I think it's going to get there. It's just that's the one where I think they have had to do a little bit of massaging to make sure they have the votes. But what I've gotten from people who are involved in this stuff is that everybody expects that at the end of the day it's going to get to where it needs to get to. All
right, Sean. The other thing I'm wondering too, do you know if there's been any back channel communications with Tom Dundon to know for sure that this is what he wants and what he would require to move forward to get things done to keep the Trailblazers here long term?
I don't know the exact extent of how involved he's been in the talks. I do know that they've at least, when they've wanted to, move forward with this stuff, they've at least, run it by him to say, hey, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? And they wouldn't be going to the step of actually having this legislation be voted on and then signed into law by the governor if they didn't have a reasonable idea. Obviously, there are rules in place about, he doesn't actually own the team yet, so he can't actually be involved in the negotiations directly until the sale closes. Like, that stuff is in place. So has he been in the negotiating rooms while this stuff has been hammered out? No. But has he been, briefed on stuff and, given indications that, if this moves forward, like, I'm good with this and this is what I like, I like, where this is headed? I think yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's really my point, is that they wouldn't be proceeding forward with this type of funding and approvals unless they had a good idea that he was on board and had all the plans to renovate the arena and keep the Blazers here long term. Like, they wouldn't be pushing this quickly and on board if he was, hesitant about the process, correct?
Well, like I said, the hope from, at least from the team side, is that they're going to have a new lease agreement, at least agreed to in principle, maybe not finalized yet, but a new 20-year lease agreement, like, in place, like as a tentative agreement before the sale is even voted to, before the sale is even voted on by the NBA's Board of Governors. And I think this is also important from the league side, because I think when the other owners take the vote at the end of the month, they're going to want to know, are we voting to approve this sale of the Blazers with a 20-year lease and a plan in place for arena renovations? Or are we voting to approve the sale of a team with an uncertain future that doesn't have this stuff all buttoned up? So I think it's pretty important to everybody involved to have all this stuff buttoned up pretty soon, so that when the other owners are voting on, whether to approve the sale or not, they have some certainty about, okay, this is what the future is once we approve the sale. So I think everything right now is pretty much on the same page on that. It's the final, things have to get done before we can talk about it as being a done deal. But as of right now, like I said, I haven't seen any indications that that's not going to be ultimately where it ends up.
We're talking with our Trailblazer insider, Sean Highkin, here on the Rip City Drive. You can check out his site, rosegardenreport.com. What is the latest with Chauncey Billups and his legal situation and the FBI's investigation into their illegal gambling sting?
Well, he had his latest hearing yesterday in court in Brooklyn, and it was just, the actual trial hasn't started yet. This is just when there's a case like this that's getting ready to go to trial, every few months or so they have these just status updates where all the defendants and the prosecution and all their lawyers and all of those folks are just due back in court to get an update from the judge on just where everything stands. There's going to be another one of those scheduled for June 11th. But what we got from the hearing yesterday is that the tentative start date for the trial, the actual trial for the case with, evidence and all that stuff, is November 2nd. So quite a ways away. That's going to be after next season starts. And then the other thing we got from it is that the prosecution has said that they are currently in the process of extending offers out to some of the defendants. They said about a dozen of the defendants in the case they are currently extending offers of a plea agreement to, and then they're in talks with 9 of the other defendants about potentially doing a plea agreement also. Now, is Chauncey Billups one of the defendants that is in talks about a plea agreement or is thinking about taking a plea bargain? I don't know at this point. That's not out there, any of the specific names of people that are thinking about it or that are in talks to do that. But that is something that's, that the prosecution says they're in the process of right now with some of the defendants in the case. And I guess we'll find out in the coming months whether Chauncey is one of those, and then whether he ends up accepting a plea bargain, and then, how they move forward from there, and whether, how that affects his status with the Blazers or any of that.
Fascinating on so many different levels. So right now the supposed start date for the trial, assuming that Billups goes to trial, would be November 2nd.
That's not like locked in. That's not officially set yet, but that was the date that the judge threw out yesterday as the date that he wants the trial to start. Obviously, there's a lot of time between now and then for things to get in the way or things to be moved. He said when at the arraignment hearing in November, when Chauncey entered his plea of not guilty, the judge said that they wanted the trial to start in September, and now a few months later, he said that the date is November 2nd. So when they have their next status hearing in June, it very well could be delayed. But as of right now, yeah, the idea is that they want the trial to start on November 2nd.
All right. Have you made any determination if you're going to cover the trial? It's kind of a weird time being right at the start of the NBA season, but what's your take on that, covering the trial or not?
Is Chauncey Billups still employed as the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers by that point, or does he do some sort of agreement that well, but you don't know that though. Like, if the case goes to trial, I think it's and he hasn't done a plea bargain, then I think there's probably a reasonable chance that the current status quo is still going to be in place for legal reasons, because they got the Blazers. The reason the Blazers haven't cut ties, I mean, nobody thinks that Chauncey's ever going to come back and be the coach of the Blazers. He sold his house in Lake Oswego a couple months ago. I don't think anybody thinks that that's a possibility. Yeah. But it's been this status quo. He's technically still the head coach, and Tiago Splitter is just the acting head coach, because they are waiting to see if how the trial plays out. If he's found guilty, then they can just easily fire him for cause and not have to pay out his contract. But if they, if he is, cleared legally and they still want to fire him, there's probably going to be a fight with the Coaches Association over whether he gets back pay or stuff like that. So, like, if Chauncey between now and November does a plea agreement and agrees to plead guilty to these charges, and then the Blazers, after that happens, say, okay, now that we have this, he pled guilty to these charges, now we can just wash our hands of it, then no, I don't think I'll be covering the trial. But if it's still in this state of limbo, then it's something I'm going to have to think about for sure. But no, I have not made that decision yet.
So let's say that the case goes to trial, that Chauncey Billups does not plea out. Does that increase the chances that Tiago Splitter will be the acting head coach next year?
That I don't know. I think that's going to be up to Tom Dundon, whether he, and this is going to be something. I think everybody kind of knew that because it was going to take forever for this situation to play out, that this year was just going to be status quo. But I have no idea what Tom Dundon is thinking about, the coaching staff, the front office staff, any of that kind of stuff. And none of us will really know that until he officially owns the team and he's the one that is making those decisions. But it is going to be real interesting to see what happens if, we get to the summer and Chauncey Billups is still, awaiting trial and there hasn't been any change in his status with the Blazers. And then Tom Dundon gets in and says, you know what, I think we want to go in a different direction with the head coaching position. Are they going to hire somebody and then announce them and do the introductory press conference and say, hey, we want to introduce our newly hired acting head coach for the Portland Trail? Like, for legal reasons, that might have to be how it is, which is going to just be really weird and awkward. But wow. I mean, I think it would be easier for everybody and just cleaner for everybody involved if Chauncey ultimately decided to take some sort of plea deal. But that's between him and his lawyers and the prosecution. I have no idea where the latest is on that, and I don't think anybody else really does either.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, Deni Avdija, do you think he plays tomorrow or Sunday? I saw him working out before the game last night in Memphis, and he was moving well and working out really hard. So what's your take? You think, does he play tomorrow? Will they wait until Sunday? What's your feel on Deni Avdija?
Well, they just put out the injury report about half an hour ago for tomorrow's game, and he's listed as doubtful.
Is he probable? Doubtful.
Doubtful. So I would guess no then for tomorrow, just because it's doubtful. So it's not for sure no, but if they listed him as questionable going into the Memphis game and then he didn't play, so now they're listing him as doubtful. Usually, I'll have to go back through all the injury designations and see when the last time somebody was listed as doubtful and then played was. But if he's listed as doubtful, that's going to make me lean no.
All right, Sean Highkin. You got to read him at rosegardenreport.com. He's really good. Sean, that was an excellent hit today. I appreciate the insight and the updates on the Arena Project, on Chauncey Billups, everything, my friend. I hope you enjoy your Thursday evening.
Yes, sir. I'll see you on Sunday.
What a stud. Sean Highkin, RoseGardenReport.com. Yeah, Chauncey Billups, to plea or not to plea? That is the question. Fascinating. And good news on the arena project front, where the Trailblazers, everything's looking good right now. Very good. All right, 503-248-0620. All right, I don't know when I should play this. I've had requests for it. The latest request came from Dave, my good friend Dave Vesey. And Dave, were you at the game on Monday with Portland State? And we were trying to connect for the game against Idaho, and he was going down, and I went down for the game on Monday when the Vikes secured their spot. But, Dave, we got to connect, my friend. So I've had a number of people, including Dave, hey, Chad, could you please replay Travis's Klingon meltdown again? That was classic. No way it was a flagrant 2. Yeah, I know that it was definitely a flagrant 1. I don't consider what Klingon did with his elbow because he runs a little bit hot, too. Like, that was not a basketball move, but I don't think it was an F2. That was more of an FU, not an F2. So I don't want to do it right now. We'll probably save that for 4 o'clock. But Travis, every once in a while, Travis just loses it on the officiating. And I think it's funny. I really enjoy it. He melted down last night because the officiating sucks. They suck. Most of the officials are complete buffoons. No offense to any official out there, of course. But can you be better? Yeah, never mind. You can't, all right? You can't be better, and that's why you just have to mentally prepare. And poor Donovan Klingon got ejected from the game for using his elbow. I was taught when I was younger, like, get those elbows up, and if someone's face happens to be in the way, that's their problem. But the problem is Klingon kind of moved his elbow in a non-basketball fashion to make contact. And he did. He nearly knocked the guy out. Who was it, Jalen Wells? Someone looked like they died after they connected with Klingon's elbow. His face was in the way. I'm sorry. So we'll play that. We'll do it at 4. It's a good meltdown from Trav. Every once in a while he gets lit at the officials, and he was last night. All right, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number if you want to reach out. Big thanks to Sean Highkin. We will pay tribute to the great Lou Holtz at 520. You'll hear my conversation with him from the downtown Hilton. He has passed away at the age of 89. And I hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Now, Blazers back in action tomorrow. They tip off in Houston against the Rockets at 5, and Blazers game day will start at 3. Now, who's hosting tomorrow? I'm all confused. Is that you, Brendan, or is it Burkhart? All right, Brendan Slaughter will have game day starting at 3 tomorrow, and he'll have fifth quarter following the game. You got the Rip City Drive. I think it was Elton John. He believed in George Michael when he was young and gave him opportunities to sing backup vocals. I think the principal and I pulled it up. The song Nikita from Elton John. At the very end of the song, you can hear George Michael singing backup vocals, which I like. Elton John also helped many artists revive their careers, get things going, and he was very giving of his time and his resources to get people back on track, including Neil Sedaka, who just recently passed away. This right here is a headline, and I started reading the story, but it's absolutely unbelievable. You know, sometimes you read a headline and you're like, wait, what? Is that possible? This is a headline from ESPN. And as bad as it is, maybe at Oregon State or some other schools, it ain't this bad. According to ESPN, police say a coach on the Cal State Bakersfield men's basketball program was moonlighting as a pimp across 4 states. Multiple dismissals have occurred at Cal State Bakersfield as an investigation probes who knew what and when. Moonlighting as a pimp across 4 states. And coaching hoops. I mean, that, you want people to be multi-talented and to be diverse and be able to handle many things all at the same time. I mean, you would definitely need some multitasking skills to be able to pull that off. Let's see what Rabbi Google says about that. Moonlighting as a pimp. That is unreal. Ah, dang it. It just brings up stuff about the Cal State Bakersfield coach. I don't even know what to say about that. I just know that that's probably not somewhere you want to send your kids. It's like, are you kidding me? Did that really happen? 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Unreal. That is truly unreal. I just can't believe it. Sometimes you read headlines, you're like, what? Like I saw where I think it was a spoof, but I think I just got this text message from Brendan. He is a pimp for being a pimp. Yeah, because a lot of times, as guys, we joke like, dude, nice work, pimp. We call each other pimps or whatever. It has many different meanings. I haven't actually looked at Urban Dictionary to know what the definition of pimp is, but let's find out. Let's see if it has an actual usage that we use it for. All right, here it is. Here it is. A pimp in Urban Dictionary, a word that has many definitions in modern-day American slang. Also refers to a ladies' man with immaculate skills in the art of pulling women with the end result of having some mommy and daddy time. Generally as someone who oozes with confidence, a good sense of style and appearance, and most importantly has a way of using his words to initiate relations. I'll say it that way. They always use it in an example in a sentence. Dang, I swear Logan always gets the best looking women. That dude is literally a pimp. There you go. But that's how we use it. But I don't think that that's what this coach was doing. He was more in the literal sense of what it is. Unbelievable. It's like, huh? What went wrong here? 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. So the Blazers back in action tomorrow. I did not know when Hiking came on that they had put out the injury report for tomorrow. But I'll pull it up right now from Trailblazers PR. And sure enough, doubtful is Denny Avdia, questionable is Chris Murray with the illness. So we know that Klingon was sick in Chicago. Murray got sick, but now it looks like Murray might play in the game tomorrow, but no Denny Avdia. So my guess is, yeah, if Denny's close to making a return, there's no need to force him back in at the end of a road trip. Just let him get some more rest and be ready to go on Sunday when the Pacers are in town. That's probably a good way to handle it. Everyone else, Hansen in the G League, Shaden Sharp still out with the fibula stress reaction, whatever the heck that is. Caleb Love's down in the G League. Dame, of course, is out. And then Jason Kent, whoever that is on a two-way deal with the G League as well. I just got a text message today from someone within the organization, and they said, hey, Chad, I'm trying to work the Dame interview. When are you available for him? And my response is very simple. anytime live between 3 and 6. I can tape anytime. I can meet at Moda or the facility basically 24/7. You tell me. And then there's certain athletes where you'll do that for. It's like, hey, Dame wants to talk? No problem. I'll be there. You just give me the time of the day. It's really irrelevant. Dave Vesey reached back out to me. I was at the last Portland State game, Chad. That's proudly my alma mater. I heard you might go. I was looking for you but couldn't find you. I thought maybe you didn't make it. That may be their last game. We should meet up again sometime. I agree, buddy. I was there. What I did is I reached out to my boy, their SID, and he hooked me up with a press pass. And when I got to the game, I just wanted to sit in the stands, so I went into the upper tank and found a good row with no one around and just sat and watched the game. And it was kind of nice to sit and watch a game. I didn't have to worry about broadcasting. I didn't have to worry about taking notes. I just sat back and enjoyed the basketball game for what it was. And then I watched the Vikings just dismantle Weber State and secure their first regular season Big Sky title since like the Ken Bone era, the Coach Bone era. That's a pretty good name, Ken Bone. That's a coach's name that you would expect to be caught up in the Cal State Bakersfield situation. Like if they came out and said Coach Bone was moonlighting as a pimp, I might buy it. But yeah, it was great, Dave. That was awesome, man. It was I was really happy for Jace and the team just to see the way they went out there and competed. I thought it was terrific. And now they're going to play. I think their first game will be in Boise on Sunday as the number 1 seed in the Big Sky tournament. And the big dance is coming up. We're almost there. All right, coming up next, we'll replay based on request the Travis reaction to the ejection of Blazer center Donovan Clingan last night for using a elbow in a non-basketball type move. And then we're going to honor the one and only Lou Holtz coming up at 5:20. My conversation with him at the Downtown Hilton back in 2012. Lou Holtz has passed away at the age of 89. You got the Rip City Drive.
America's game. It's fantastic.
All right, the Blazers even up their road trip with a win over the Grizzlies last night in Memphis. Holiday on fire, 35 points, 8 of 11 from downtown. Grant with 30, and Robert Williams a double-double with 20 points and 11 boards. The Blazers finish up their 5-game trip tomorrow night in Houston against the Rockets. That tip-off is at 5. Blazers game day with Brendan Slaughter at 3. And it's all here in your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Our Trailblazers insider Sean Highkin joined us earlier today on the Rip City Drive for an update on the Arena Project. You can always podcast at ripcityradio.com or on our free iHeartRadio app. Great news for the Celtics. Jason Tatum expected to make his return tomorrow. Boston will host Dallas. That's less than a year after he ruptured his Achilles tendon. From the NFL, the Bills are trading for Bears wide receiver DJ Moore. Cam Jordan will be a free agent when the new league year begins, and the 49ers have added Matt Eberflus to their defensive staff. All right, we're going to hear the replay of Travis's meltdown last night with the Donovan Clingan ejection. We'll do that here in a couple of minutes. But today we're going to honor the great Lou Holtz, who has passed away at the age of 89, won a national championship at Notre Dame in 88 when his team went 12-0 and defeated West Virginia in the Fiesta Bowl for the national title. That team was quarterbacked by Major Harris. Tony Rice, of course, was the great Notre Dame quarterback, and they beat number 1 Miami and ended their 36-game winning streak on October 15th of that season. And I had a chance to have a conversation with him back in 2012, and I want to share that today to honor him because he's one of the all-time greats. And I want you to hear this. Dan Patrick on his program remembered Lou Holtz and shared a couple of good stories. Take a listen to this.
Lou Holtz passed away yesterday. He was in hospice for a while, age 89, and if you weren't around when he was at Notre Dame, you don't understand the magnitude of what he did, what the impact that he had on college football. He was one of the faces, one of the voices, very entertaining, and he brought Notre Dame a national championship. But if you were ever around him, he was a guy who was going to entertain you. He had a lot of great stories, and he loved to share those. But he was more than just Notre Dame's head coach. He coached a variety of places, and I don't think he's in the Hall of Fame. Maybe check that, Paulie. I don't know if Lou Holtz is in the College Football Hall of Fame, which would surprise me. But somebody was talking about that to me yesterday. Yes, Paul?
He was inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame in 2008.
Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. Because I know Digger Phelps, Notre Dame basketball coach, is not in the Hall of Fame. Now, that's the Basketball Hall of Fame. But for Lou Holtz, he was, as Paulie said, a pisser. Like he wasn't afraid to give you an opinion, tweak you a little bit, yell at the officials. And, you start to look at Notre Dame football. They've had a lot of great coaches there. Nobody more as charismatic as Lou Holtz. But at age 89, and he became a great analyst, a fun analyst. He was with Mark May, with the mothership, Reese Davis. Reese tells a great story. He played with Lou Holtz at Augusta. Lou was a member of Augusta. And I think when he was at South Carolina, part of his deal when he was coaching there is he got a membership to Augusta. And later in his life, he couldn't really hit it very far. I don't know if he could ever hit it very far. But the fact that he took Reese Davis, Jay Billis, and I think Mark May to Augusta. And he told this story to Scott Van Pelt last night. But the par 3 12th, he would lay up. Now, yes, he would lay up on a hole that was 149 yards. And what he would do is he'd hit it before it got to Rays Creek. And then he would chip up, and, sometimes he would end up with a par. But he loved playing there. He loved bringing people there, and he would chip up and right before the creek. So he probably hit it 120 yards, and then he would chip it onto the green on a par 3. But Reese Davis tells the story, that Lou Holtz won a bet with Mark May, and he had just had neck surgery. Lou had. And they were going to get a picture because Mark had to give him the money that he won on this bet. And Lou goes, hold on. He goes into the clubhouse. He gets his neck brace that he's supposed to be wearing, and he comes out for the picture to make it even more like, how did you let a guy in a neck brace beat you in golf, Mark May? But that was Lou. He was always one step ahead, and at the age of 89, he lived a very, very eventful life.
There you go. That's Dan Patrick sharing his thoughts on Lou Holtz. And I learned that, too, when I talked to him. I had no idea, but he was quick to remind me that he was a member at Augusta National, which is pretty awesome. All right, I want to play this for you because we've had a few people requested. But last night during the game, this is in the first half, Blazers are not playing particularly well at the time. They had 7 turnovers in the second quarter, and things started to go a little bit sideways before they turned it around. Thanks in large part to the vets, Robert Williams, Jeremy Grant, and the smoking hot Drew Holiday, who had 35 points. Klingon got ejected with a flagrant 2 on an elbow throw. And there's no doubt it was a flagrant. It was not a basketball move. Like, he tried to make contact with the elbow. I'm not sure it was a flagrant 2, but Travis definitely didn't think it was a flagrant 2. And he got a little bit heated at the officials. Take a listen.
Review, the contact is deemed to be unnecessary and excessive. Therefore, the play will result in a flagrant foul penalty 2.
Wow, they just threw him out for that. Are you kidding me?
Flagrant foul penalty 2.
How is that an ejection?
2 free throws.
Wow. He got ejected for that?
With 24 seconds on the
That is
clock,
terrible.
And the ball will be inbounded if the free throw line extended. This will be
They ejected him for that. That is a joke. This game has been terribly officiated all night, and that is the most embarrassing thing that has happened tonight. That is absolutely terrible. So 2 free throws and the ball for Memphis, and Donovan Klingon's night is over. They eject. I'm seeing the replay now. They ejected him for that. The difference in what we've seen here on the big screen and what we've seen on the Blazers broadcasting feed. On the Blazers broadcasting feed, we've seen it at real time. They sped it up differently in arena, and it looks very different when you do it that way. Flagrant foul, okay. An ejection, that's terrible. After the free throws, 53-47. That's the first ejection for Donovan Klingon in his career.
Oh, my goodness. This is a waste of humanity's time.
Yeah.
That ball's foul, Jim.
By 10 feet.
Yeah, that ball, what?
By 10
Are they asking for, are Cincinnati asking for that to be looked at? Is that the deal?
Then is he horse collared at the 8? Yes! Terrible call!
Overton front court to Thomas, and Isaiah bumped on the way up.
Oh, and they're counting the basket! He's counting the basket! Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
And he ought to be teed up!
Travis, it's a good question. It's an important question.
And he ought to be teed
And
up!
I believe we're moving towards an answer, closure to that question. And that is, my goodness, this is a waste of humanity's time.
Yeah.
That ball's foul, Jim.
By 10 feet.
Yeah, that ball, what?
By 10.
Are they asking for, are Cincinnati asking for that to be looked at? Is that the deal?
There you go. So Travis Demers not happy with the ejection of Donovan Klingon. I don't think it was a flagrant 2. It was a bad elbow. You know, he probably shouldn't have thrown that, but it happens. It's basketball. And if we're being honest, Klingon does run a little bit hot. But that's okay. You know, the one good thing about Klingon, I was talking with someone who works inside of the organization, and, you know, they wanted Klingon to be more of an enforcer this year, to show more emotion, and to be more of an intimidator. And he has certainly done that. Like, he has accepted that role, and he is, both feet in. And that's a good thing. You want that. You want someone, I mean, I'm just going to be real. Like, I know they don't want people fighting and stuff or getting hurt, and you don't want the game to get dirty. But man, I'm telling you what, you don't want someone to feel comfortable when they're coming down the lane. I mean, it's okay to make someone uncomfortable, on the basketball court. To at least let them know that, hey, if you're going to come in here, or if you're going to, carry on with nonsense, you're going to get a little physical punishment. And you can do that and send a message, even in today's game, without going like full-on Kevin McHale where you clothesline a dude, Kurt Rambis. Or you go tap like, freaking Bill Lambert and Rick Mahorn where you're just clubbing guys when they come in the lane. Like, you don't want that kind of stuff. But having an enforcer and a tough guy that's got sharp elbows and someone that will challenge dudes at the rim, like, I love that. I respect guys like Klingon who are willing to stand in there and try to block shots, even though they're going to get jammed on occasionally. But because you got the balls to stand in there and defend, you're going to get a lot more blocks than you are someone dunking on you. So I like what he's brought to the team. Attitude, toughness, and this team can use that. And he brings it, man. Klingon doesn't give a flip. He doesn't give two F's what you think. He's not worried about someone's face getting in the way of his elbow. Like, he's willing to stand in and engage. And I like that. You want that. The Blazers need that. And Klingon has accepted that role this year on the team to be the enforcer. So big props to Klingon and Travis Demers. You got to love it, man. And that's what you want. And Brian Wheeler was the same way. He would get heated and bitter sometimes. I love Brian Wheeler. 503-248-0620. I just listened to that. I think that Wheels clip in the Dallas series, Game 4, when Roy went wild, I think that is like the best Brian Wheeler. That is vintage Wheels right there. And Trav is still, coming into his own, but, he's getting better and better by the moment. And I like it when he gets ticked off. I like people getting angry and showcasing that type of emotion. It's great. It's really good. But Klingon's tough. And Klingon's been one of the best players all year. Last night it was the veterans that carried him in that game. Drew Holiday was hotter than a pistol. 8 of 11 from downtown, game high 35. Jeremy Grant, what we've seen throughout the course of the season. He was aggressive, scored 30. Shooting the three or attacking the rim. And then Robert Williams, a lot of Blazer fans very critical of the Blazers training staff because of all the injuries this year, but you got to give credit when it's due. Look at the work they've done with Robert Williams. Figuring out the amount of minutes he can play without damaging his body. No second of back-to-backs, and they've got him on that minute count, and it's worked perfectly because he's been healthy. He's got the spring back in his step. And you can see the bounce in his game. Like, he's very athletic. But, man, he's been really productive. Double-double machine. He leads the NBA in blocked three-pointers, which is amazing for a center. And last night he was awesome. And then they needed him to. But, it's almost like he ratcheted up his game after Klingon got ejected. So I just like what I've seen from Rob Will. And more importantly, I'm happy for him because I know those were some dark days when he first came over to Portland. You leave Boston, you come to Portland, new city, trying to get a feel for things, and then you're going through the injury issues where you can't play or participate. And it's tough. It's one of the hardest things in sports is when you're away from the team and you're rehabbing. And, he's been able to get it done. Oh, I like this little Beatles action. I went back, I listened to, a couple of nights ago, I went through all the greatest hits of Paul McCartney. He's got so many great songs. But I think after listening to Lennon and McCartney's solo stuff, I think McCartney's solo career is better than Lennon's solo career. And that album, Band on the Run, is just a great album. Man, just think about how much more great music those two could have written had the Beatles not broken up. And I blame Yoko. It's always a female. Come on, Yoko. What are you doing, man? Don't mess with the good band, you dum-dum. All right, 503-248-0620. We're going to pay tribute. You'll hear my conversation from 2012 with Lou Holtz at 520. I appreciate your time. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Yeah, Mike Silver, who has been a long-time NFL columnist and a guy that's covered the league for many years, based out of the Bay Area. I really respect him and enjoy his work. And, I had a chance to come across his path a few times when I lived down in the Bay. You've got to check out his reporting on the Raiders right now. They're a disaster. And this is not a surprise. I've been calling out the Raiders for their crazy operation from the top down for quite some time. They've really been a non-factor in most of my life. Their last Super Bowl win came back in '84 when I was 9 years old. And aside from that trip to the Super Bowl in '02 and a couple of other playoff appearances, they've done nothing. In fact, they're so bad now that the whole idea of commitment to excellence, the younger generation has no idea what that meant to the Raiders organization years ago when Al Davis was in charge of making good decisions and they were a good franchise. But they stink. And it starts at the top with Mark Davis, the owner, of course, and the fact that, they've changed head coaches what seems to be almost every year. The instability has created massive problems. And now they're in a position to where they have the number 1 pick in the draft. Now, it appears that they're going to take Fernando Mendoza unless the Jets or somebody else were to make some type of absurd offer to where they could really restock the cupboard with picks and have the ability to go out and retool their team. But the problem, again, it comes from the organizational structure where you've got your general manager, but according to Mark Davis, Tom Brady is also someone that is, heavily involved, but he's not on site in Vegas. I think he lives down in Florida. And according to Silver, Brady's workout guy, who's like a health and fitness coordinator for the team, is running around like he's got a bigger title than he does. And so it's just a gigantic mess. And so you've got his trainer running around as the fitness coordinator or nutrition coordinator or whatever his title is, Guerrero, and he's reporting back to Brady, but Brady's not on site. So it's like, how involved is he? And who's truly in charge? It's such a mess. I don't understand how they can operate. John Spytek is their general manager, but is he in charge, or does he report to Brady, or is it the two of them together that report to Davis, and yet you have a guy in Brady who's apparently involved, but he's not on site and around the daily operations, but he got his trainer Alex Guerrero involved? See, this is what I'm talking about, man. And this is on Mark Davis. You've got to make sure you've got a clear structure so everyone understands their role, and then you empower those people to go out and do their job. It doesn't bother me. They're the Raiders. But I feel bad for Mendoza, who's going to wind up in a spot where the instability could be costly to him. Let's see if they have his exact title, Alex Guerrero, with the Raiders. He's the wellness coordinator. That's Alex Guerrero's role with the Raiders, and yet, according to Silver, he's rolling around, acting like he's got a bigger title than he does. And there's a new report out from NBC Sports that Max Crosby, among others, are, quote, frustrated by the presence of Alex Guerrero. Bill Belichick was frustrated by the presence of Alex Guerrero. So, again, this is how you end up being a bad franchise. And you got to put that on Mark Davis. Now, I will say this. I'm real curious to see what happens with Kyler Murray, who's going to become a free agent, unless there's some type of trade that's put together, but I don't think that's going to happen. And then Kyler Murray can go and sign with another team. So here's what I would recommend to any young quarterback who's getting a second chance to go out and find a different team. And I guess this is going to maybe something we can look forward to every year. Who's going to be the next Sam Darnold? The guy who nearly washes out with the team he's drafted by or another team that he winds up on, but then gets that second chance at life with a legitimate coach and finds a situation that's perfect and then thrives. And we saw that with Darnold, who just won a Super Bowl. Even Geno Smith, who was just god-awful this past year, even he had resurgence in Seattle under Pete Carroll and was able to reestablish himself as a quarterback and be able to make some big-time money. But this is where you're going to find out what's truly important to the player. And Kyler Murray is one of those players who has got the natural gifts, the God-given tools to be able to go out and play quarterback at a high level. He does. And we've seen him do it before. So I'm excited to see what he can do in the right situation. But the question is, it's not about his talent or his ability. Well, does he want to be great? Like, does he truly want to be great? And if you go back through Kyler Murray's career, he's had some good seasons. 2019 with the Cardinals, threw for nearly 3,800 yards, completed 64% of his passes, 20 touchdowns and 12 picks. In 2020, completed 67% of his passes, threw for just under 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. In 21, completed 69% of his passes, threw for nearly 3,800 yards, 24 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. And then we see a bit of a drop-off. In 2022, 66%, 2,300 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 picks. In 23, 1,799 yards, 10 touchdowns and 5 picks, 65% completion as injuries became a problem. In 24, 68% of his passes, 3,800 yards passing, 21 touchdowns and 11 picks. Like, he's had some good numbers. And then this past season, didn't play much. So does Kyler want to get paid, or does he want to become a legitimate quarterback? Because if he wants to become a legit quarterback, he needs to go and look for the coaches who can get him to where he needs to be. And I think we all know the likely spots. That means you want to look for a Sean McVay, maybe Coach O'Connell with the Vikings, maybe it's Kyle Shanahan. You need to find someone that can restore you and get your confidence back. And I think it's important for these quarterbacks after they've gone through a beating and they've gone through a rough patch, reestablishing their confidence to where they'll go out and be aggressive and start to realize their ability again. So I think the perfect fit for Kyler Murray would be Minnesota. They obviously screwed up on the draft selection of J.J. McCarthy. Kyler Murray's got incredible ability. You would have him on turf indoors and let him take over. And Coach O'Connell has been a quarterback whisperer. Look what he did with Sam Darnold in that year with Minnesota before he went to Seattle. Look, that's who I would go to. Go to Coach O'Connell, get a deal done with the Vikings, and it could be more of a team-friendly deal. And don't focus on just getting paid. Put yourself in a position to be reestablished as a legitimate big-time quarterback in the NFL. And watch, listen, and learn, and let him work with you. And that's what you need to do. Find a coach and a system that's going to be best for you and put you in a position to succeed. And then Kyler can reestablish himself as one of the greats. But again, it comes down to the work ethic. The same thing goes with guys like Jamarcus Russell. With Russell, it had nothing to do with physical ability. He had everything. Big-time arm, mobility. He had the physical tools. But, with a lot of these guys, he didn't want to put in the time and the work that was necessary. And I heard that conversation, I think it was Gilbert Arenas. This is when he was playing with the Golden State Warriors. And he shared this story about Kobe Bryant. And I think this is a good example of what I'm talking about. Do you want to be great, or do you just like the idea of being a quarterback because you get the notoriety and you get the money? What Gilbert Arenas said is that he had always heard stories about Kobe Bryant and his work ethic, how he showed up early to work out. He would get up early to work out. He would do all these things. And Gilbert Arenas said that he heard that Kobe Bryant would show up at, like 3 o'clock to start working out for a 7 or a 7:30 tip. And he didn't believe it. He goes, no, I'm an NBA player. I'm on a team. No one's showing up at the arena at 3 p.m. for a 7:30 start and to start going through their drills and their working out and to get themselves ready for a game. He goes, that's insane. So what he did is he caught a cab to the arena, and he got there around 2:30, according to Gilbert. And he said there were people out there on the floor, the cheerleaders and these different people going through their rehearsals, getting ready for the game. And all of a sudden, Kobe Bryant, sure enough, came out on the floor when no one else was around at 3 o'clock. And what Gilbert said is that it's not just that he was there at 3 o'clock putting in the work long before everybody else, but it was how he worked. he said that he was working out with his trainer like there was $1 million on the line. That's what Gilbert said. And he's like, why is he doing that? You're playing us, the Golden State Warriors, who were not a good team at the time. He's like, well, what's going on? But that was the commitment to what it took to being great. To pay the price, to get up, to put in the time. And that's really what separates a lot of the players in the NFL, the quarterbacks, or some of the elite players. The desire and the willingness to put in the work and the effort to be great. And the one thing that I've always thought, is pretty simple. It's like, and I guess everyone's just wired differently. But if you know that you've got the physical tools and all it's going to take is more work, then you do that. And I've always thought for young players, if you're coming into the league, and because Michael Holton's talked about this before, about being around some big-time pros like George Gervin or MJ or some of the guys he played with when he was young in his career, when you get into the league, whether it's the NBA, NFL, or whatever, find the ones who do it right, who are great, and talk to them about what they do and take a look at their work ethic. And then you can go about piecing together your process for how you become great and put in the time to become a dominant player. And that's what I'm hoping Kyler Murray does. But if I'm a quarterback looking for that second opportunity, Malik Willis, Kyler Murray, like we saw with Sam Darnold, I'm going to take a look around and try to pair myself up with one of those coaches who's got a proven track record of working with and reestablishing quarterbacks or developing quarterbacks or guys who can really help rebuild your game up from the ground up, to make sure your feet are right, to make sure you're seeing things properly, to restore your confidence so you can go out there and let it rip. And so I think those coaches are pretty obvious, right? You go out and find those guys. It could be Matt LaFleur in Green Bay, Coach O'Connell in Minnesota with the Vikings, definitely Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers, Sean McVay with the Rams. I mean, the coaches, there's multiple opportunities, but those are the places I would go. And if Kyler Murray goes in and is willing to put in the work and dedicate himself to the craft of being a great quarterback, then the rest is history. And I've heard Steve Young talk about this a lot, too, over the course of time. Early on in his career, he relied a lot on his athleticism. Steve Young, the lefty Hall of Famer from the 49ers, was one of the great all-time scramblers and knew how to use his legs. But he said what happened is, as he committed himself to understanding the game and what defenses were doing and how to read a defense and how to throw the ball with anticipation, being on time and on target, that as his physical tools started to slow down, the game also started to slow down because he could see things. And he would start to anticipate better. And he knew what the defense was doing. And he said there was like that perfect window of opportunity that lasted for about 4 or 5 years where you still have enough of the physical tools to do what you need to do, but the game has slowed down, so you're seeing things in a way that you haven't seen before, and your mind starts to give you the advantage. And, we see that with a lot of older quarterbacks. Because they have such a great understanding of what's happening on the field, they're able to be 1 or 2 steps ahead with their mind in terms of how they deliver the football. I saw this late in the career of Larry Bird, after he had gone through multiple surgeries, the back issues, he had the bone spurs on his ankles, all these sorts of problems. But he was still had those moments late in his career where he was ridiculously reliable and productive. And even though he didn't have the athleticism throughout his career, especially later in his career, he learned how to use angles, how to use his body, how to put different arch on his shots to get it up over the top of longer defenders, guys like Cliff Robinson, how to anticipate what the defense was going to do and utilize his vision and passing skills, like, your mind through study and through work and understanding of the game. So that's what I'm doing. My encouragement to any young quarterback out there looking to restore their career is to find a coach that can help, rebuild your confidence and help you have a better understanding of the game and set you up for success from the ground up, starting with your feet. Sean Payton would be on that list as well, as he continues to work with Bo Nix to help him with his footwork, his understanding of how to climb in the pocket, what to look for with the offense, how to understand what the defense is trying to do. Even Aaron Rodgers, I think, I've shared this story before, but I think for Rodgers, when he was in Green Bay, it was the defensive line coach, and I forgot who it was, but it was the line coach, Rodgers said, that helped him learn how to read defenses. So when Rodgers goes up to the line of scrimmage through a study, he looks at the defensive front, and based on what the front is doing, he knows after the ball is snapped what's going to be happening in the back end of the defense, which allows him to turn his back to the line of scrimmage in play action in different situations like that. But that's all through understanding and putting the time in studying. Now, Travis Demers has been hitting me up. He says, hey, I just met the big dumper. And I responded and said, that is awesome. Now, he's down in Houston right now getting ready for the Rockets and Trailblazers tomorrow. He says the World Baseball Classic team is at our hotel. The lobby was littered with guys, so Judge is there somewhere. So is Pettit. He's the pitching coach. It's like, dude, you've got to go meet Andy. You need to meet Andy because Travis is a big Yankee guy. Do it. I'm just texting him right now. Do it, Travis. Do it. I want to see the World Baseball Classic badly, but the problem is getting in and out of Houston's a pain in the ass. So I'm going to wait until it's like West Coast, and I want to go check out the World Baseball Classic. I like the idea of the Classic, and I've watched it on TV, and I think it's awesome. And as you know, I love going to check out baseball games every year. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. And now Michael Shacker is texting me. Can I give away a pair of Blazer tickets on Tuesday? Are they your tickets, Shacker? People send me crazy questions sometimes. Well, it is a Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, so I guess you can give away whatever you want as long as it's Blazer tickets, Michael. You do you. You do you. All right, I'm here. I'm at Spirit Mountain Casino. New drawings start tonight to the hoop. It's March Madness themed. We got the big Plinko board out. And if you're into The Price is Right, the old school episodes with Bob Barker, then you should check it out. I think it's on, I was watching some of the old episodes on Amazon Prime the other night when I was eating dinner. It's amazing. The some of the cars they gave away. And why was it with the Showcase Showdown, why did the first showcase always suck? It was like furniture and carpet, and then you always knew that the second showcase was going to have like a series of awesome trips or a boat or some type of car. You ever notice that? And I still can't figure out what my favorite pricing game is. Plinko was awesome. The Safe Cracker was epic. Was it what was the name of the one where the guy climbed the mountain, and if you didn't guess the price right, he would fall at the end? I forgot the name of that one, but that was good. And then I saw him do the putting game the other night, and this chick sank a putt and won a bunch of stuff. But Bob Barker was really good with the putting, and he'd always do he would always hit the first putt to kind of break the ice on the putting game. You guess the price. You got to guess the prices of the products. And speaking of products, no, I don't want to get into it. I think I saw the McDonald's CEO eating a hamburger and he called it a product. It was one of the most awkward things I've ever seen. But that guy's a complete tool. It's amazing to me how these guys, these really rich guys, or some presidents, who was it? Was it George Bush? He went into like a grocery store, and he couldn't believe they had scanners for like the items at the grocery store. He's like stunned. Like, you don't want to live in such a bubble where you have no idea what the general public deals with on a regular basis. And if you sit down to eat a burger on social media that's from your company, you probably should not refer to it as a product. What are you, a complete tool? Anyways, I don't even know where I'm going with that. I think Travis Demers needs to go find Andy Pettit wherever he's at in the hotel. Apparently, Pettit is the pitching coach on the WBC team. Man, I love those teams too. The Joe Torre Yankee teams had some great studs. And one of my favorite players ever to play for the Yankees was Gary Sheffield, who also was great with the Dodgers. He was basically great wherever he went, but no one looked as intimidating at the plate, aside from Barry Bonds, of course, but Gary Sheffield, when he started doing that weird little bat wiggle before he'd swing the bat, it was awesome. But I love Gary Sheffield. I saw him play as a Dodger with my buddy Steve at Dodger Stadium, and I saw him play as a Yankee a few times up at Safeco at the time. All right, we'll keep things rolling here. Rip City Drive. We've got my tribute, my conversation with Lou Holtz from 2012 coming up at 5:20. He passed away at the age of 89. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. I appreciate your time. You got the Rip City Drive on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. What can I say? Give such secrets away. This is a great song. I was listening to an interview. I think Daryl Hall was, and maybe he was talking to Howard Stern. It was in one of my YouTube webs I got caught in. But he said this song, and Daryl wrote a lot of his songs with Sarah Allen, who he wrote the song Sarah Smiles after, but they were a good songwriting tandem. But this is one of those songs he said came quick, like real quick. And he said that that's the way a lot of the hits came. It just, you get everything comes together and you've got a hit song in just a matter of minutes. But great work. I love Daryl Hall. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Travis Demers is right now actively, like a little child, running around his hotel in Houston trying to meet Aaron Judge and Andy Pettit. And I think I have a crush on Judge. He's cool. And he's a dachshund lover like I am. Like, I just want Puppy Shots to be able to run around Yankee Stadium with his wiener dogs. But Aaron Judge is cool. But Andy Pettit, super stud. And I like that. So I guess the WBC team, everyone's staying at the same hotel where the Blazers are at right now, where Travis is at, getting ready for the Rockets and Trailblazers coming up tomorrow night. And I like that. I like seeing Travis. He was really hot last night, really upset at the officials. So it's nice to see Travis have a day where he can, be able to cool off and enjoy himself. 503-248-0620. I'm looking at the schedule here. So we have, what's the date today? The 5th. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Tuesdays remaining, including this coming Tuesday. 5 Tuesdays remaining in Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday. We got tickets for Utah coming up on Tuesday. On the 17th, we'll have tickets for the Nets and the Bucks. On the 24th of March, we'll have tickets for the Mavs and the Wizards. On the 31st, we'll have tickets for New Orleans. And then on the 7th, tickets for the Clippers and the Kings. So 5 Tuesdays remaining in Trailblazer Ticket Tuesday, courtesy of your Portland Trailblazers. And me, Chad Doing of the Rip City Drive. You can reach out 503-248-0620. Just a reminder, tomorrow we're not going to have Rip City Drive because of the early Trailblazer game in Houston against the Rockets. Portland is 2-2 on the current 5-game trip. And if they get the win, then if they can get the win tomorrow, then they'll go 3-2 on the road trip, which would be pretty good based on how it went last weekend in Charlotte and Atlanta. And then coming up at 5:20, we'll hear my conversation from 2012 with Lou Holtz as we pay tribute to him. Like, what is your favorite college football game of all time? Like, there are a few of them that stand out over the years, but that Notre Dame-Miami game, and I think it's interesting that my favorite college game didn't even involve any of my favorite teams. I just hated Miami so much, and they had won 36 straight. Steve Walsh, the quarterback, had just beaten my Sooners in the Orange Bowl the previous season to win the national title with Michael Irvin and company. And I love Barry Switzer so much, and I just wanted Oklahoma to win a championship so bad in '87, and they just couldn't get the job done. Jamel Holloway got hurt late in the season against Oklahoma State, and they finished the season out with Charles Thompson. And he was a great option quarterback, but wasn't the passer that Jamel Holloway was. I don't know if Oklahoma would have beaten Miami with Holloway, but they would have had a chance. They lost in the Orange Bowl that year 20-14. So by the time the next season came around, I was super bitter and hated Miami with all of my heart. In 1985, Oklahoma won the title, but lost one game that year to Miami. The next year, 1986, they lost one game at Miami. That prevented them playing for a national championship. In 1987, the Sooners finished the year unbeaten, number 1, and lost one game. National title game in the Orange Bowl to Miami. 3 straight years, 3 losses, all to the same team. Little Chad had a difficult time with losing back then, and it took me a while to realize that your team couldn't win every single game. But I did suffer some difficult losses back then because John Elway was getting rolled over in Super Bowls, brutal. The Sooners lost to Miami in the national title game. And then the Oklahoma Sooner basketball team, under the tutelage and leadership of Billy Tubbs, went all the way to the national title game at Kemper Arena in Kansas and took on Kansas and Danny Manning, and they were the heavy favorites and had rolled through the entire tournament and then somehow lost that game by 4 points to Danny Manning in Kansas. Freaking Larry Brown was the coach, too. Gosh dang it. That game hurt me because I love that. But that team had here's the starting five for the Sooners that year in basketball, and you'll know some of the names. Mookie Blaylock was the point guard. His backcourt mate was Ricky Grace. The forwards were Dave Seeger and Harvey Grant, father of Jeremy Grant and former Trailblazer. And the center was Stacy King. Sky King was his nickname in college, and he went on to play for the Chicago Bulls and won multiple championships. That was the starting five. A phenomenal team. And then Danny Manning was just all worldly in the tournament, and he was great in that title game. And I think the other mate he had on that team was Milton Newton. But I remember watching that game. It was spring break, and we were on a trip to we went to Bachelor. So we went skiing. This is like 1988, spring of 88. So April of 88. So we're in Bachelor and went skiing and went out there with my mom and dad, my brother, and some friends. And then that one night it was cool because I got pizza. So my parents and their friends went out to dinner, and I got to stay in the hotel room with a pizza, and I watched the game. And I thought for sure I was going to watch the basketball team win the title. It was not to be. Now, those are the things that little Chad did not handle very well. All right, I appreciate your time. Coming up next, what do we got coming up next? Oh, yeah, Lou Holtz. You're going to hear my conversation with him at 5:20 as we pay tribute to him. And what a great coach and a good man, and it was really awesome to have a chance to meet him face-to-face. You can reach out to me on the Rip City Radio text line at 88528. You can call at 503-248-0620. Brendan Slaughter is with me. We appreciate your time, and thank you so much for listening. And tomorrow night, the Blazers, 5 o'clock tip against the Rockets. Brendan will have Blazers game day at 3 right here in your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, the drive at 5. Just a reminder, coming up here in about 10 minutes or so, you're going to hear my conversation with Lou Holtz from 2012 as we pay tribute to the great Lou Holtz, who passed away at the age of 89. He was surrounded by family in Orlando, Florida, but he's also the author of one of the best college football seasons I've ever seen, and he's also the coach of the team in the best college football game I ever watched, and it didn't even involve any of my favorite teams. But Lou Holtz was a special one, and that Notre Dame team, and he had a number of Notre Dame teams that were close and knocking right at the door to win a national championship, but none more special than 1988 when the Irish went unbeaten and took out Miami in the process and took out West Virginia in the Fiesta Bowl to win the title, which happens to be the last title that the Irish have won. But that team was special. And, you know, we see that before with different championship teams. There's a certain makeup, a certain moxie. As the season plays out and you look back at it, you're like, okay, that was a special team. But Lou Holtz was a special man, a family guy, great coach, good leader. And I was thrilled to have a chance to sit down with him here in Portland and have a conversation with him. And yes, he intimidated the crap out of me. The two guys who are small in stature but command a presence that jump out at me, Tom Izzo at Michigan State. I was covering a Adidas All-Star tournament in Georgia, just outside Atlanta one year, and there were a bunch of college coaches there, like all the big names, Bob Huggins, Tom Izzo, Mark Few, Coach Krzyzewski, all of them. They're all there because they're all out there recruiting these different players. And this is when Eric Gordon and a few other big names were a part of that tournament. Well, when Tom Izzo walked in, small in stature, but man, he commanded a presence. And I felt the same way about Lou Holtz when I ran into him. Small in stature, but geez, it did not take me long to figure out I'm going to show ultimate respect to this guy. He commanded a presence. So you're going to hear my conversation with him, and we'll play that here in about 10 minutes. The Trailblazers, in the NBA, sometimes you just got to win ugly. And I thought that's what the Blazers did last night in Memphis against the Grizzlies. They had a horrendous second quarter where they turned it over 7 times. The game was sloppy at times, but it was the 3 vets who were able to step up and lead the Trailblazers to victory. Jrue Holiday was on fire. 35 points, game high. 8 of 11 from beyond the arc. The 3-point shooting from Holiday was critical. And then he got 30 points from Jeremy Grant and an awesome performance, 20 points and 11 rebounds from Robert Williams, who continues to be ultra productive in limited minutes this year. So the 3 vets were able to help carry Portland to a victory, which moved their record to 2-2 on the current 5-game road trip, with the finale coming up tomorrow in Houston. Now, I've said this time and time again. I'll repeat it. In the NBA, long season, a lot of travel, a lot of fatigue. Guys, you're flying from one city, then you're hopping to another city, games all the time. It's just rare where you're going to have your best stuff on most nights. So you have to find other ways to win. And the Blazers were able to do that last night. And the good thing is about that win over Memphis, who's the next team behind Portland in 11th. Now Portland's like 6 games up, I think, on Memphis, and they've got the tiebreak. What it means is that Portland is guaranteed a spot in the play-in. So I can guarantee you right now, regardless of what their final record is going to be, that the Trailblazers are going to be in the NBA play-in tournament. Now, the best-case scenario still is for them to jump up to 8th and overtake the Warriors. They also have the tiebreak on the Warriors, and they'll be competing with the LA Clippers on their pathway to potentially number 8. The reason why number 8 is better than 9 or 10 is that you play in the 7-8 game. And when those two teams meet in the play-in tournament 7-8 matchup, the winner of that game, you just have to win once, and you're the 7th seed in the Western Conference playoffs. The loser of the 7-8 game will play the winner of the 9-10 game, and then the winner of that second game will move on and be the 8th seed. So if Portland, just look at it like this, if they get to the 8th seed and overtake the Warriors and the Clippers, they'll have 2 opportunities to win a game to get into the postseason. And then it would just a matter of whether they're going to be the 7th or the 8th seed. So that's why you're looking at 8. The Warriors aren't playing good basketball. Portland's got the tiebreak on them. They're just a couple of games back. There's an opportunity there for Portland. And just so we're straight, if the Blazers make the play-in but do not advance into the postseason, they keep their lottery pick. If the Blazers get into the play-in and they advance to the postseason and they're one of the top 8 seeds in the West, their lottery pick will convey to the Chicago Bulls, and that's how that's going to go down. So there you have it. That is the situation. That's where Portland is at. But the schedule upcoming over the next couple of weeks after they play this game in Houston tomorrow, they got a number of very winnable games on tap. So they're going to continue to stack some wins. Denny Avdia, I watched him when I'm sitting there in Studio C for the road games, getting ready for the pregame show. We've got a monitor which just gives us a feed from the arena. So we're just watching the arena floor and anything that's happening with fans walking around as they get closer to their seats down by the court. Anyone that's warming up on the court, any type of pregame stuff that's going on, I'm able to see it. And so I watched Denny for a good 45 minutes go through a vigorous workout. He took a bunch of shots. He was working with the basketball. And then he spent several minutes running lines. Like, he was working his ass off. And I guess the reason why I tell you that is that he was close to playing last night. Wouldn't be surprised if he plays against the Rockets on Friday. Maybe the team will keep him out one more game, but I would expect him back Friday or Sunday when the Pacers are in town. What I'm trying to say is that he was moving around like a normal person, uninhibited. He was moving well. He was running well. He was working vigorously when he was going through his drills. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that Denny Avdia is not far from a return. And that's important because I watched this team play, and so I don't get too frustrated when I see them struggle like we did this past weekend in Charlotte and Atlanta, or at times in the second quarter against Memphis. This team doesn't really have the true identity without Denny Avdia, because Avdia is their best player. He's a superstar in the NBA, and he makes everyone's job on the floor easier because he's a good decision maker. The defense has to respect Denny, and they'll collapse on him, and he's so good at getting into the teeth of the defense and drawing fouls that when he's on the move and attacking in the half court, off the bounce, or when he's pushing the ball in transition, it just creates open opportunities for his teammates. And when you're that type of player who is handling the basketball, making decisions, he's the primary facilitator. And when he's not on the floor, it's going to be a problem. And then you kick in the loss of Shaedon Sharpe, and then it takes your two best players off the floor who are your top two in terms of being able to create their own shot. And so it kind of leaves some of these other guys who are a little more dependent upon Denny to create for them in a position where they're kind of trying to feel their way, or maybe they don't truly understand their role, and maybe the team doesn't have a clear identity in who's going to be the main facilitator. I want desperately Scoot to become that guy, but he has been struggling of late to make shots. And the team as a whole has been struggling to not turn it over. I think Scoot's like 2 of 24 from 3 over his last 4 games. So he's still trying to find himself after coming back from the hamstring injury. But they desperately need Scoot to become that guy. So that's where we're at. That's the bottom line. That's what's going on. That's the situation. That's all of it. So, I don't know. It sucks. I want Denny on the floor, but he should be back. I would guess tomorrow or Sunday we're going to see Denny back. And then the Blazers, once Denny's back on the floor, they're going to be able to play so much better. And the most unfortunate part about the guys being nicked up and guys, running in and out of the lineup with all the injuries, games they've lost to injury this year, it just prevents continuity. Continuity in all sports is one of the most underrated aspects of performance. When guys are on the floor together, when they're having a chance to get a feel for one another, play together, develop an understanding of, who likes to be where and where certain people's spots are, it just makes you so much better because the 5 guys, when they're together on the floor all the time, they start to operate more like one unit. But it's hard to do that when you have so many different guys in the starting lineup every night. And Denny Avdia, and I think this is a good thing, it's nice to see the Blazers struggle without him because it makes you realize how good he is and how thankful we all should be that he is on this team and that Joe Cronin made the move to get him and gave up nothing, essentially, to get a player like Avdia. The Wizards, not very smart, but we appreciate you. Thank you, Washington. Thank you for unloading Denny. Thank you for getting rid of a budding superstar and not understanding what you had. Morons. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. The Drive at 5 is presented by McCord's Vancouver Toyota, where they live by the slogan, "We make it easy." Check out their inventory now at VancouverToyota.com. All right, when we come back on the Rip City Drive, we're going to pay tribute to Lou Holtz, and you'll hear my conversation with Coach from 2012 right here on the Rip City Drive, your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Well, I'm sure as many of you know by now, the great head coach Lou Holtz has passed away at the age of 89. Many of you know him for his time as head coach at Notre Dame, where he spent 10 seasons, was incredibly successful, but he was a head coach at 6 different schools. But he was also an analyst on ESPN for an extended period of time. So a lot of you know him as a TV analyst. Many of you know him as a coach, and some of us know him as both. And this was put out from the Notre Dame president. Quote, Notre Dame mourns the loss of Lou Holtz, a legendary football coach, a beloved member of the Notre Dame family, and a devoted husband, father, and grandfather. That was written by Notre Dame President Reverend Robert A. Dowd. Quote, among his many accomplishments, we will remember him above all as a teacher, leader, and mentor who brought out the very best in his players on and off the field, earning their respect and admiration for a lifetime. And that's very well said. Holtz was a head coach at 6 different schools and even spent a season as the coach of the New York Jets, and of course known most for his tenure at Notre Dame from 86 through 96 as the Fighting Irish went an impressive 130-2 under the leadership of Holtz. In that 88 season, which is one of my favorite seasons of all time, Notre Dame went 12-0, finished the season at number 1 in both the AP Top 25 and the coaches poll after their Fiesta Bowl win over West Virginia. It was the first national title for the Irish in 11 years after they won 4 across the 60s and 70s. And the Irish have yet to win a national championship since that magical 1988 season. In that season, the Irish allowed just 11.2 points per game that season and beat Miami, number 1 at the time, 31-30 in South Bend on October 15th. The Hurricanes and Irish, that game famously known as the Catholics versus Convicts game. The Irish's win broke Miami's 36-game win streak and moved Notre Dame up to number 2 in the AP Top 25. The victory is one of the most iconic college football games of all time. And the Irish sealed the championship with a 34-21 win over West Virginia. 37 years later, it remains the most recent title Notre Dame has won in football. Holtz left Notre Dame after the 96 season and was hired at South Carolina in 99. He turned around the Gamecocks program that went 0-11 in the first season before going 8-4 in 2000 and 9-3 in 01. After 3 straight losing seasons, Holtz retired from coaching. A brawl versus Clemson marred his final game at South Carolina, and both teams refused bowl berths at the end of the season as a punishment for what happened. That's incredible. Now, before Notre Dame, Holtz's head coaching career started at William & Mary. He spent 3 seasons with the Tribe before he was hired at NC State. He was 33-12-3 with the Wolfpack before he was hired by the Jets ahead of the 76 season. His time in the NFL didn't last long. The Jets were just 3-10 before Holtz resigned with a game to go in a regular season. Holtz immediately went back to the college ranks and was hired by Arkansas ahead of the 77 season after longtime coach Frank Broyles stepped down. The Razorbacks went 11-1 in Holtz's first season with the team and won the Cotton Bowl. Arkansas won 10 games again in 79. Holtz finished his Arkansas tenure with a 60-21-2 record when he was fired after the 83 season. Holtz then spent 2 seasons at Minnesota before taking the Notre Dame job. The Gophers were 10-12 in those 2 seasons. He finished his college career with a record of 249, 132-7. He ranks 3rd in all-time wins at both Notre Dame and Arkansas. And in 2008, he was elected into the College Football Hall of Fame. Holtz is also known for his time at ESPN as a studio analyst for the network's college football coverage. He left ESPN in 2015. Holtz was also politically active both as a coach and after he was done at Arkansas. When he was done with coaching at Arkansas, he filmed campaign ads for North Carolina Senator Jesse Helms. Though he flirted with the idea of becoming a politician, Holtz never officially ran for office as a Republican. Though he remained active in the GOP circles, he spoke at the 2020 Republican National Convention, and there you have it. That's a life well lived for Lou Holtz. Love him. Great man, great leader, great football coach. And I've said this before, I'm not a Notre Dame fan. I didn't go to school there. I didn't grow up in Indiana. But that 1988 season was special. And the win over Miami was unbelievable. That is still to this day my favorite college football game of all time. And you've got to remember, I grew up in Oklahoma. I was a huge Sooner fan. I love Barry Switzer. And the only team that Barry Switzer could not beat from 85 through 87, 85, 86, 87, 3 straight seasons, the Sooners lost 3 games. They were all to Miami. And I was really upset about that, including a national title game in the Orange Bowl. So that next season after Oklahoma lost to Miami in the title game and the Hurricanes were continuing to mow through the competition, I was pulling for Notre Dame in that October game in South Bend. And the Irish were a special team with a number of special leaders, led by Tony Rice, their quarterback, and they found a way to scratch out a victory against the Canes, 31-30. It's, to this day, my favorite college football game of all time. Well, the reason why I'm bringing all this up, I just want to honor Coach Holtz, and I want you to hear him. I had the opportunity back in 2012 to meet with Coach Holtz in downtown Portland. I think it was at the Hilton. It was set up by my former producer, Peter Sokach. He came into town because he was going to give the commencement speech for the graduates at the University of Portland, which is a sister school of Notre Dame. And when I found out I had a chance to meet with him, I was like, oh, I'm in 100%. And it was so cool because we met in the lobby of the hotel, and it was just him and Peter, and he was sitting in a chair, and I got down on my knee next to him as he was seated, and I just began the interview and started to talk with him. And it was pretty awesome because he was wearing a sweater from Augusta National. And I asked him about the sweater, and he's like, yeah, this is the type of sweater that members wear. So he let it be known that he was a member at Augusta, which was pretty awesome. But he was very kind and very gracious with his time, and I spoke with him for over 30 minutes, but the interview was really good. I asked him about the 88 season. We talk about leadership, or leaders born or made, and he shared his life, and you can tell how much he loves his family, his wife, his kids, and his grandkids, and what it's like to actually be able to talk football with his sons who were in the game themselves. So I wanted to share this to honor Lou Holtz because he's been a lot to me, and he's one of the difference makers in the game of college football, both as a coach and an analyst, but a really good human being. And, you know, the world is not a better place without Lou Holtz. And so I want to honor him and share the conversation. I was thrilled to have a chance to sit down with a guy who I admired so much as a coach. And I think I've told you this, you know, interviewing athletes, you know, as you get used to it, it's normal. They're just people like we are. But the ones where I get nervous are the guys that I grew up admiring. You know, when I was a kid and I was watching them, guys like Barry Switzer, Lou Holtz, John Elway, all the guys that I grew up with who I looked up to and thought, man, those guys are amazing. Well, Lou Holtz is one of those guys. But I hope you enjoy the conversation as we honor Lou Holtz, who has passed away at the age of 89. And the good news is he was surrounded by family in Orlando when he passed.
Good morning. It's nice to see you in Portland.
Oh, good. Thank you. It's nice to be here. And what's really great is I'm not a weather predictor here. I'd hate to do that. I've seen that weather change 9 times in one day.
Well, it's easy because regardless of what they say, you can just pretty much predict partly cloudy with a good chance of rain, and you're set.
But you know what? This is a beautiful downtown. I had a chance to walk around, and the attitude of the people here has been very, very nice. So I can see why this is a popular place.
I got to tell you what, I love the sweater you're wearing right now. It's a sweater with the Masters symbol on it. Have you been out to Augusta and seen the course?
Yeah, I've seen it a few times.
Have you played it?
Oh, yeah, I've played it several times. Most members do play it.
Oh, so Lou Holtz is a member. I love that. Now, what is I just talked to a gentleman who's a teacher at Champions here. I asked him the other day what his favorite hole was, and he was talking about the course. What's your favorite hole at Augusta?
I think you'd have to say, 12, 13, 15, and 16 are my favorite holes in the world. I mean, those are 4 great holes. What's your best score at Augusta? Well, 78, but that was a long time ago.
78?
Yeah, but that was a long time ago. I have won the member at Augusta. That's my claim to fame. That's my greatest athletic achievement.
I would think so. In fact, of all the great things you've done, I would say a 78 at Augusta is pretty darn good. We're here with Coach Lou Holtz. That's impressive. So they brought you out, commencement speech. How'd they get you out here for that? That's fantastic.
Well, Father Beauchamp was vice president of Notre Dame in charge of athletics, among many things. And I worked with him for 10 years. And when Father Bill asks you to do something, you don't look at your calendar, you say yes, and then you figure out how you're going to get there and how you're going to do it. And so when he asked me to come out and be the commencement speaker, I've spoken at several commencements before, but I'm really looking forward to this. And one of the great things about this is having the opportunity to read about the University of Portland and the improvements and the accomplishments and the success they've had in different areas. So it's been a very educational experience for me, and been delightful to visit with Father Portman and Father Beauchamp. Both of those, as I said, were Notre Damers.
You know, I was going to ask you this. You know, when you look at the way the world's changing with the economic conditions and some of the tensions in the world, you know, things are different now. What is your message when you look at the world and you're going to talk to these kids? What's your main message going to be to them and as they enter the world and start, you know, to possibly have a career and a family and so forth?
Well, the first thing, the message is going to be short. Last thing they want to do is hear.
They don't want a sermon.
No. And I understand that 10% of them won't remember 10% of what I said 10 minutes after I said it, but we'll share some thoughts and ideas. First thing is you'd like to live your life so if you didn't show up, people would miss you. In other words, if they didn't go to work, they didn't go home, would anybody miss you? If nobody's going to miss you, it's because you're not a contributor, because you're not helping anybody, you're not adding value. But the main message is wherever we are, good or bad, are because of choices we make. And life is nothing more than making choices, and how do you make good choices? You know, people are choosing whether to listen to your radio show or not, and they're choosing whether they think I have anything valuable to say or not. It's all matter of choices, and I give them a very, very strong formula how to make good choices.
Well, see, that's a pretty simple formula for me. That's why I interview someone like Coach Lou Holtz, because now I'm giving people a reason to tune in on Monday morning.
Well, you're very kind.
So I wanted to ask you about your time at Notre Dame, and I grew up watching you, and I always respected the way that, you know, you conducted your business. But how special was that time at Notre Dame? I know the school means a lot to you, but I really love the way that your teams played with character. You had great players, but talk about your time as the head coach at Notre Dame, one of the most, you know, prestigious, you know, universities in the country.
Well, I've said this, that if you've been part of Notre Dame, no explanation is necessary. If you haven't been, no explanation will suffice. Having said that, it is a very special place, and it's a different place. I'm gratified that people look back on the Lou Holtz era and say that was a good, positive time in Notre Dame. But when you went there, it wasn't my football team. I didn't feel a sense of accomplishment. I felt this awesome sense of responsibility to make sure that our program and our football team represented the university. In other words, we had to play with intelligence. I mean, we got pretty good academic standards. No reason in this world you should jump offside or do dumb, stupid things or miss an assignment. I felt also should play with class in everything we do, that Notre Dame was glad that we should play with a love for each other and a caring for each other, and the list goes on and on. That's all I try to do. And you don't wake up and say, boy, I'm going to go to Notre Dame and I'm going to be a success. No, I just felt what an awesome responsibility I had to the millions of people who followed Notre Dame football to make sure we lived and played to the best of our ability. And, you know, we're going to be buried at Notre Dame. Our cemetery plots are there. It overlooks a golf course and the dome. It's a better view if you're sitting up. But the reason we're going to be buried at Notre Dame is, one, the alumni buried us every Saturday, but the other one is 3 of our 4 children graduated from Notre Dame, and they will always come back to Notre Dame. They won't always go to Arkansas or South Carolina. They will always come back to Notre Dame. And on my tombstone, I want to say I told you I was sick. And I would, if they don't bury me in Notre Dame, please bury me in Chicago so I can vote after I'm dead.
It's Coach Lou Holtz here. I had to ask you about your championship team, 1988, because when I think of you, I always remember that team. Some of the character guys, Tony Rice and, you know, Rocket Ishmael and all the great guys that went over Miami. What was it that made that team so special? Because there were so many great parts of that season, and you capped it off with the win over Major Harris and West Virginia. What do you remember most about that season, Lou?
That we had a combination of some seniors who hadn't been part of winning, and we had younger players who were very talented and enthusiastic. Just how they came together and how how they had one common cause, and that was to win. And you don't say we're going to win national championship. You wake up one day and you're national champs, and you got to be lucky if you're going to be a national champion. Either the past gets knocked down or it doesn't, etc. But it was just special because nobody expected us to be that good that early. And as the excitement grew, our confidence grew. And just to be part of the love and the feeling. And people say, well, that football team really loved one another. That's why we won. We didn't love one another because we won. We won because we loved one another. And to this day, the closeness of that football team is prevalent. And one of the great accomplishments that I've had at Notre Dame is not having a statue at Notre Dame. I mean, they probably needed a place for the pigeons to land. But the biggest thing is the fact that the players who played for me for 11 years have started a club called Lou's Lads. And one thing they share in common, they might have been there 8 years apart, but they heard the same stories, the same philosophy, and the same love of Notre Dame. And I preach the love of that university and the obligation they had. And they've given quite a bit of money back to Notre Dame. They're involved in a lot of different projects. That makes me proud that those young men learned to appreciate Notre Dame, that they want to keep giving back to repay them.
It's Coach Lou Holtz with us. What was the transition like for you into television? I know a lot of people that really enjoy watching you on ESPN and breaking down college football. How did you enjoy that transition onto the TV side, talking about the game that you've coached for so long?
Well, I wasn't going to do TV. I was going to retire. And next thing I know, ESPN said to me 8 years ago, would you come up on Saturday, one day a week, and work on ESPN2? Well, I thought that was good tour duty because everybody needs four things in your life. Everybody needs something to do, someone to love, something to hope for, and someone to believe in. And so that gave me something to do. First week I'm up there, they fired Trev Alberts for insubordination. They come to me and they said, we have a 3-man set over there. Go sit in the middle chair till we figure out who we're going to put there next week. I don't know Reese Davis. I don't know Mark May. I'm not going to say a word. And pretty soon I thought, I can't let Mark May get away with that. That's stupid. Now Mark May, he looks at it as a player. I look at it as a coach. We have a difference of opinion. He made suggestions. I made decisions. He signed a paycheck on the back. I signed him on the front. And so we have a different opinion. I called him not long ago and said, Mark, I saw a bumper sticker reminded me of you. He said, what did it say? It said, Jesus loves you. Everybody else thinks you're an idiot. You know, it's just, we ride one another. He's a smart guy. He's a good guy. He's a great guy. He's professional. And we have no teleprompter. We have no script. We have no rehearsal. Everything you hear us say, whether...
No script and no rehearsal?
Absolutely. No script, no rehearsal.
That's man's game right there. I like that.
I want to tell you, you at my age, and my birthday candles cost more than the cake, and I'm trying to think about how many names and stats, and that's awful hard for me, but, you just talk to you, think of something to say, and it's like we keep coming up with different things, like when we have...
like Dr. Lou, which is genius.
Dr. Lou is all me, and they just turn on, let me talk about whatever I want.
Did you come up with that idea?
No, they came up. They said, we want to get something about your philosophy, etc. And they came up with Dr. Lou, and that was 7 years ago. And then they come up with Final Verdict, and how we do it. They'll throw out something. If Mark and I agree, we don't do it. If I say, well, I sort of disagree with you. And as I told Mark, Hamilton Berger won more cases against Perry Mason than Mark Mays won against me.
It's great. We're here with the coach, Lou Holtz. I wanted to ask you about your son. What's it like, your son Skip is a coach at FIU. What's it like to talk about the game and to see him coach? I would imagine that's a thrill, but I wanted to hear from you. What's it like to have a son involved in the game? You can talk about the game with him and just talk about that experience.
Well, he was at Notre Dame when I got there. And he's in his senior year, and he came in to see me. He said, Dad, I want to be a coach. I said, we didn't send you to Notre Dame to be a coach. Could have sent you to Kent State for about 1/4 the cost. Just as I sent you here to be president of a corporation. He said, well, I want to be a coach. I said, have you talked to your mom? He said, no. I said, make sure she's unarmed when you tell her, because she'll shoot you. Well, we then got him a graduate assistantship at Bobby Bowden in Florida State. And he coached at Colorado State, and he's very successful at Notre Dame. And he has really done a tremendous job. When I became head coach, I went to William Mary because I made every mistake known to man, but nobody really cared, even though we had more Marys than we had Williams. Now, he went to Connecticut, he made mistakes, but when he got to East Carolina, he was really ready. And for example, at East Carolina, he beat North Carolina, NC State, Wake Forest, Duke, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Boise State, and should have beat Arkansas and Kentucky, but their field goal kicker missed 7 field goals inside the 35. But, he's an excellent coach. He beat Notre Dame last year. But I'm proud of him. But the problem is when you have one son who's in the public limelight and everybody's asking you to brag about them, which I love doing. But I got 3 other children who are outstanding as well, but nobody will give me the time or the opportunity to brag about them. They're all very wonderful people, but he is a...
Who are they? Who are the other 3?
Well, my son Kevin is a graduate of Notre Dame, and he's a public defender for the appellate court. He delivers Meals on Wheels. Got 2 beautiful children. Coaches Little League. A lot of kids would bring home a stray dog. Kevin always brought home a stray person. Hey, Dad, I found this person that didn't have a word to say. That's his heart. My other.
So you were like the community father then.
I could go on. My oldest daughter graduated from Centenary, married a chemical engineer from Arkansas, and beautiful child. And my youngest daughter graduated from Notre Dame, married
Centenary? Isn't that where Centenary? That's where Robert Parrish went, right?
Yeah, that's right. And they need him now because I don't think they've won a basketball game.
Bring back the Chief.
Bring back the Chief. But we're just blessed with our family. We have 9 great grandchildren. And everybody said, "Wow, you don't look that old." I said, "No, we have 9 grandchildren that are great."
You look like I'm just guessing, but you're probably a really cool grandpa. What do you think?
Oh, I just try to spoil them a little bit.
Try, or you do a heck of a job.
No, I was pretty tough as a father, but I will say this: both my sons are better fathers than I was. I mean, their patience with them. We had 4 children, all girls but 2. And when the girls were bad, I spanked the boys. You never raise a hand. You just look at them. If I spanked the boys, that's scary. But if I'd say to the boys, "This is what I didn't see. I know you did something I didn't see." But boys are nothing but a problem till they reach 12. They're breaking windows. They're writing on the wall. They're jumping on furniture. They get 12. They get involved in athletics. They're no problem. Girls are no problem till they reach 12. Once they reach 12, you got all kind of problems right now.
Well, my dad used to do that. Sometimes he'd stand up and just loosen up his belt, and he's like, I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Well, I just figured I need to spank you for something."
And that was the case. But, we just, we look back and we've really been blessed in our family. We've never had a problem with drugs or alcohol or marital problems or financial problems. And, that's one thing that scares you. When you're a high-profile father, the children sometime will rebel and react differently and go in the wrong direction. So it's a real tribute to my wife. My wife's a cancer stage 4 survivor. They gave her 10% chance to live, and
that's a blessing.
Yeah, I don't pray for her anymore. I pray to her. I mean, she's an absolute saint. So I just. So we've been married 50 years. I got to tell you, last summer.
Congratulations! That's fantastic.
Well, last summer I'm on a golf course, and I said I'm with my 50 years with my best friend. The guy said, "No, he's not your best friend. Your dog is." I said, "You're wrong." I said, "My wife's my best friend." He said, "You're wrong." He said, "Try this. Lock your dog and your wife in the trunk of the car, come back in 2 hours and see which one's happy to see you." But probably the wife, not so much, a dog very much so. But, we've been blessed. And, I was in the lower half of my high school class, and I just feel fortunate and blessed in my life.
We're here with Coach Lou Holtz. Before I let you go, Eric Reveno, the head coach at University of Portland, was talking about the time that he's been able to spend with you and some of the little tidbits of wisdom that you can drop on him. What's your main message been to Coach Rev and what he's doing at the University of Portland?
I don't think he needs any help. He would just ask me questions trying to help the ego of a real old man here, an old-time coach, but he's done a tremendous job. But I think it's just about having being a leader. They can name you the head coach. They announce to the world that he's a basketball coach at Portland, but they can't name him the leader. Players' titles come from above. Leaders are determined from below. And just some of the things that make a leader. So
I was wondering about this with leadership. Are leaders born, or can you make leaders?
You're not born a winner. You're not born a loser. You're not born a leader. You're born a chooser. You choose what's going to happen. It's like in my hometown, somebody said, any great people born here? He said, no, all we have are babies. That's the way we all are. It's absolutely, you learn to acquire and to do different things.
All right. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Lou Holtz. I'll remember him like you will forever. We'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday. Blazers back in action tomorrow as they finish out the 5-game road trip. They'll be in Houston to take on the Rockets, and it's going to be right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620, with game day starting at 3, tip-off at 5, and Travis Demers will have the call. It's pretty crazy. I saw the news that Jason Tatum is planning his return and is expected to play on Friday, which is pretty amazing. And according to the report that I'm reading right here, Tatum is expected to make his debut against the Mavericks Friday night at TD Garden. Tatum, whose return comes less than 10 months after tearing his right Achilles tendon in Game 4 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Knicks, has been described as ready to go, and he's expected to inform the Celtics of his final decision ahead of Friday's action. He has diligently been working on trying to play this season since he suffered the devastating injury against the Knicks. He had surgery at the hospital for special surgery by Dr. Martin O'Malley less than 24 hours after the injury occurred. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to pretend to be one, but I was listening to some dude. I think he may have been a doctor or someone with knowledge of working with, athletes. But apparently, because Dr. Martin O'Malley was on hand right when the injury took place, by getting the surgery done inside of that 24-hour period, it allowed for quicker healing. And I don't understand the science behind it, but I do know that it happened quickly, and he got the surgery quickly, which allowed for Tatum to be able to start the rehab process, but more importantly, for the body to be able to take and heal quickly, which is really nice. The longer you wait to have the surgery, the longer the recuperation time is going to be. That's why that 24-hour period being inside of that was so critical. Now, everyone's different, right? Every body is different. Everyone heals differently. So I'm not here to say that it's a mistake or not a mistake for Tatum to get back on the floor. They obviously wouldn't be letting him do it if they didn't feel like he was 100% recovered. You got to keep in mind, too, aside from having that surgery inside of the 24-hour period after it took place, he's a younger guy than someone like even Damian Lillard. So I'm happy for him. And I like guys and athletes, especially these really competitive athletes, guys who compete at that level. A lot of times they'll take their recovery, their rehab, and look at it as a challenge to take on, to embrace, and to overcome. And I think sometimes having a goal to come back before the allotted time or the expected time, it drives you through the entire process of recovery. And so I'm happy for Tatum. The one thing I know from covering sports and being around some athletes, guys who have played the game, you talk to any of them, and the hardest thing to deal with are injuries. Injuries are brutal because, one, you don't know if you're going to be able to return and be the same player, so you have a lot of self-doubt. You also go through that period of darkness because you have the one thing that you love taken away from you. You don't know at the time that it happens if it's going to impact your future earning ability because you may not be the same player. So there's a lot of unknowns. And that's, I think, for any of us, unknowns in the future or what's ahead is pretty spooky. But the hard part really is, and this goes back to what you hear athletes say when they retire. What do they miss most? They miss the guys, being in the locker room, being around the fellas, having those relationships, being able to share in those relationships and have that bond. And all of a sudden when you're injured, you're away from the team. You're not traveling with the team. You're not going to team functions. You're in a rehab room going through the workouts by yourself. And that reminds me of the late, great owner of the Denver Broncos, Pat Bowlen. He cared about his players like a lot of these owners do. And back in 2001, in fact, it happened the night before 9/11, Ed McCaffrey, father of Christian McCaffrey, who was a terrific wide receiver at Stanford and then in the NFL, became a star with the Denver Broncos. Great receiver, great athlete, and just an all-around good dude and very tough. Well, in the season opener in 2001, the Monday night before 9/11, Ed McCaffrey broke his leg. And it was a gruesome injury that took place against the Giants in the first game where Denver opened up their new stadium at the time, which was in Vesco Field at Mile High. Well, Ed McCaffrey was done for the year. And what Pat Bowlen would do, and I thought this was pretty cool, he knew what time Ed McCaffrey would be in the workout room rehabbing and going through his treatment. And Bowlen was a big-time workout guy. He loved to bike and cycle and keep himself in good shape. And so he would go down and time his workouts for when McCaffrey was going to be in the room rehabbing because he just wanted to be there next to him. Not because he was trying to give advice. He just didn't want McCaffrey to be alone because he understood what he was going through. And so I thought that was pretty sweet that the owner just wanted to be there, to be someone next to him, to let him know that he wasn't alone as he was going through those dark times of being away from the team, not being able to play, not certain of the future, and you have all the doubts and the question marks and the fear and all that stuff that enters in. That's the hardest part for the players when they rehab, is being away from the guys. So Tatum's been able to battle through. He's worked his ass off, and now he's going to come back in less than a year, coming off the ruptured Achilles. And I'll say one thing. Back in the day, Dominique Wilkins is probably the best example of someone who came back from the Achilles tear, who was decent. He was not the same player before the injury, but he was okay. He was productive. But that used to be like the death nail for athletes. You rip up the Achilles, you're done. You can't be the same player. The innovation and the technology wasn't the same back in the 80s or early 90s. But now with the way players, what they have access to care-wise and what they're able to do through their workouts and their rehab, it's pretty amazing to see how far we've come along, especially when it comes to the different processes they have for doing the Achilles repair. So I think it's awesome, and happy for Jason Tatum. He's a great player. And the Celtics, I got to give Joe Mazzulla credit. They've done a great job of keeping it together throughout the course of the season without Tatum. I don't know if they're a legitimate title contender, but they're going to be a factor in the postseason. One of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, and they're going to get Tatum back. I don't know what that's going to look like or how long it's going to take Tatum to get back to the player he was before, but they've done a heck of a job of, kind of piecing things together and working with what they have to get through this difficult time. So credit to Jason Tatum. Pretty awesome story. All right, that should just about do it for us. I appreciate your time today. I hope you enjoy your Thursday evening. Tomorrow, no Rip City Drive because we got the early Blazer game. Game day will be at 3. Tip-off with the Rockets at 5, and I'll have the network pregame show at 4 o'clock. Right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Big thanks to Brendan Slaughter for engineering the program. I appreciate your time, and I hope you guys have a great Thursday, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow before the Blazers finish out the 5-game road trip in Houston against the Rockets. Have a good night.